Morning everyone, so Tuesday morning now, and let's have a look at our learning for today. So again, we're going to start off with our reading and continuing our Lemon and Snicket Bad Beginnings book, which is going to concentrate on chapter 2 today. So as I said on yesterday's video, we're looking at a skill, 3 skills this week, and the second one that we're going to look at again is Inference. So let's have a look at how we might begin to answer some inference questions. Now remember, with inference the answers aren't necessarily written directly into the text, and we have to try and read between the lines, so to speak, to try and answer them. So it's really important that we have read the text and we understand the background and the context that it's all written in. It's really important that we've read all of it and we're understanding that to begin to answer these types of questions. And the questions that you're answering are going to be in much more detail maybe than the retrieval questions that we did yesterday. So let's have a look at our first question for today. It says, Violet and Klaus are always moping around and are never any fun. What does this tell you about the type of person Edgar is? Now Edgar is one of Mr. Poe's sons. Now obviously they're staying with him at the minute because their house is burnt down. So what I'm going to do first is find that just in the text, which is there. Now it might not just be this small section I've got on the screen. You might need to have read the page before and the page after really to answer this in detail. So what does that actually tell us, that comment that he makes there about they're always moping around and never any fun? Well, we need to begin to think about the background of those two children, Violet and Klaus. Now obviously they've just lost their parents in a house fire, haven't they? So what I would say about Edgar is he's not very understanding or empathetic because he's annoyed that Violet and Klaus are feeling upset. So again, because he's not actually, he's just expecting them to be lots of fun even though they've just lost their parents, which he should really understand that they're not going to be at this point. So we might want to add a little bit to that answer. And we might say, I know he's not very understanding because Violet and Klaus have just lost their parents and he's only concerned about having fun. So again, we're just clarifying the point that we're making. And then add a little bit more to that. It also might suggest that he's quite selfish because he's only concerned about having his own room back. It says that at the very top. Look, it says he gets to have his room back. Now we can get our room back. So again, making 2 points, giving a good sort of 2 or 3 mark answer for that one. Let's have a look at another one then. So again, if you pause the video now, you can have a go at this one before I answer this one. So the question is, why do you think Mr. Poe tries to hurry the children along when they are asking about Count Olaf? So let's find that in the text where he does do that. So that's there at the bottom. And he says, like your new legal guardian, I am very busy myself. In other words, he's trying to hurry them along and stop them asking questions. Now, my interpretation of that, again, this is really important that you've read beyond this so that you know that what it's like when he actually turns up, because then you understand a little bit more about Count Olaf. It's what he's like. So this would be my answer. So I think Mr. Poe tries to hurry the children along because he knows Count Olaf is not the best person for the children to be staying with, and he feels uncomfortable with all the questions the orphans are asking him. So in other words, he knows that probably this isn't the best place for them to stay, but obviously he's quite busy. He's got his own children and he just wants to get them moved on and settled into somewhere new as soon as possible. And he probably feels a little bit guilty about that, which is why he's just trying to do it and get rid of him as quickly as we can. So you'll find some inference questions. Again, it's based on chapter 2 of the text. So have a go at those in your booklets. And on to maths. So we're going to carry on with our decimals, and today we're going to be looking at subtracting decimals. So subtracting decimals with the same number of decimal places. So just quickly recap what same number of decimal places means from yesterday. So we've got two numbers here, we've got 6.38 and we've got 9.79, and you can see that in both of these numbers we've got two decimal places. Remember, two decimal places because we've got 1 and 2 place value columns after, or to the right of the decimal points. That's what that means by 2 decimal places or 3 decimal places. Okay, and for now we're only adding numbers with the same number of decimal places. So if we were to subtract these two numbers, or take 5.78 from 6.36, remember again, as I said in yesterday's lesson, really important that we line up those decimal points and that the digits are all lined up in their correct place value columns. So again, we'd write 6.36, and then underneath that, making sure our decimal point is in line, we put 5.78. Now remember, it's really important that obviously you've got that top number, the biggest number at the top, because you are going to remove a smaller number from it. And again, just check in before you start that you've got that decimal place lined up, and then you pretty much know you've got this ready to start then. So this is how it should look when you've set this up, and nothing's really different. As I said yesterday, if you were just subtracting a 3-digit number from a 3-digit number, the only complication with this is the decimal point, but you just need to put that in. You still move across the columns and exchange in exactly the same way. So it's really important that we don't forget to exchange. So let's have a look at solving this one. So what we're saying to ourselves is, can we take 8 away from 6? Well, we can't, because 8 is bigger than 6. So what we must do is we're going to have to borrow from this tenths column where that 3 is, and we're going to get rid of that 3, and we're going to make it into 2. Then we're going to take that 1 that we've borrowed across. So that's now 16 take away 8, or 16 subtract 8, which is actually 8. And again, we've got the same problem. Look, we can't take that 7 from 2, so we're going to have to borrow from that 6, make that 5, and put the 1 onto our 2 there. So that's now 12 take away 7, which is 5. Put our decimal point in, and then we're going to do 5 take away 5, which is 0. So that would be our answer for that one. Okay, let's have a look at this one. So pause the video again if you want to have a go at this before I solve it. So again, before we start, just check that decimal points are in line. They are, and my place value is in line. Only difference with this one is I've got 19.45 and 8 points. So obviously we've got 110 in here, and the 8.72 has only got units. But again, that shouldn't really affect what we're doing today. Remember, we're just concentrating on the same number of decimal places, and you can see that these have both got 2 decimal places. So let's have a go at this one. Can we take 2 away from 5? Well, yes, so 5 take away 2 is 3. But we now can't take 7 away from 4. So we're going to have to borrow from that units column where that 9 is, and make that 8. Take the 1 across, so we've now got 14 take away 7, which is again 7. 8 take away 8 is 0, and then 1 take away 0, although I haven't put that 0 in, it is 0 there. It's 1 take away 0 is 1. So our answer would be 10.73. So again, you're going to find some of those subtraction problems in your booklets and your packs. Have a look at them, make sure you've got the decimal places in line and all your columns are in line, and don't forget to exchange. Again, don't forget to have a look at your TT rock stars and keep practicing those. And if you need me to change any of your times tables through the website, just let me know, just email me and I can get that sorted for you. On to our writing then, and again we're going to focus on the Lemony Snicket book today, and we're going to be focusing on setting descriptions. So we're going to try and write today a setting description about Count Olaf's house, and again, key question for today is how can we bring a setting to life and create the desired atmosphere. Now, desired atmosphere is really important. It's what we want to try and what effect we want to create for the reader when they're reading it. Okay, and that's really, again, as we've been discussing in our writing lessons before we close, it's really important to make sure we get that correct effect across to the reader. So we'll start with some pictures. These are in your packs too, but slightly smaller. Some pictures of Count Olaf's house and what the children saw when they made their way in there. Make sure you've had a look at the little YouTube clip. There's actually a little clip of them going into the house. You can see that, and that might give you some more ideas as well. So have a quick look at that if you haven't already done so. So let's look then at some ideas. So for now we're just going to generate some ideas about maybe these three pictures. So start on the outside of the house on the left here, and we want to try and create, obviously it's not a nice place, it's dark, so start off with something like dark clouds loomed ominously over the cracked and decrepit house. So that might be one way to start. Another sentence maybe, everything around the gloomy structure oozed a sense of death. Even the plants surrounding the house were grey and lifeless. So what I'm trying to do now is create that sense of that nothing's really living. It's all dark, gloomy. It's really not it's a horrible place to be sort of living and staying. And what we must do as well is try and carry on that theme when we're writing. So if we want to create that atmosphere, we must carry on with that atmosphere. So going inside the house, in that middle picture, the door creaked open, sending shards of rust into the air from the hinges as if they were trying to escape this awful place. That should say place there, not places. So yeah, on this particular one, I've tried to use a bit of personification on this one, just to make it come to life a little bit more. Try and get the idea that the actual, even the rust on the door hinge didn't even want to stay at this place. And again, that gives the reader the idea that, you know, the children are going to have to stay here, and it is not a very nice place to be doing so. Okay, on the last picture then, again looking inside the house. With the door ajar, it revealed the dirtiest, smelliest home anyone had ever seen. So they're just my ideas taken from those pictures. They're just some sentence openers or some little ideas that I've come up with to begin with. And on the next slide, I'm going to piece them together into a text. And that'll give you an idea of what yours might sort of sound like when you write yours. Okay, so taking those ideas from the previous slide, I'm going to put these ideas together. So I've colour coded it, so you can sort of see, if you flip back in the last slide, you can sort of see where I've got the ideas from, and they were the coloured boxes. So as the children reluctantly peered from behind Mr. Poe, their new home came into view. So that's the new bit I've added. And then I've gone from that first bit that I had. Dark clouds loomed ominously over the cracked and decrepit house. This place was horrible. scary in fact. Everything around the gloomy structure oozed a sense of death. Even the plants surrounding the house were grey and lifeless. With his hand shaking, Mr. Poe knocked on the door, only to discover that the image of the eye disappeared, sending his hand through the strange hole. What was this place? The door creaked open, sending shards of rust into the air from the hinges, as if they were trying to escape this awful building. Now you might notice from the previous slide, I've changed that slightly because I didn't want to repeat that place word. Okay, and then finally, add my last bit in. With the door ajar, it revealed the dirtiest, smelliest home anyone had ever seen. So what you can have a go at doing is, in this sort of style, have a look at that YouTube video and write your version of what Count Olaf's house looked like from the perspective of one of the children.